All right, we're back in action, and we forgot to do it while Coach was here, but he gifted us a little Arlington Tigers souvenir here.
Go
so
Tigers!
We're going to add this hat to the collection of memorabilia. Any coaches who come on the show want to bring your own gear, bring it to us. We'll add it to the collection, and
Please
we'll have
bring
a
it.
whole rack of stuff.
I can't promise they'll be there at the conclusion of the season
it's-
because, you know, I always like taking my own souvenirs, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah, please bring us your stuff. But anyways, let's move on to what our game of the week last week was, and that was the train track rivalry. It was back in week 3. It was the first time since 2018. Whitehaven, Fairley, Ruben, you was out there.
I was out there, and I got dusty, bro. Let me tell you. See, that dust could have been called the Dust Bowl, bro. The game of the week, there hadn't been water on that field in I don't know how long. You think I'm kidding? Take a look at all the dust that kicked up every time something happened. It was a defensive battle early on, really dry grass. That was a fumbled snap that went about 50 yards back. That made it 2nd and 62. That's not good stuff. Whitehaven's defense was containing Fairley scrambling around, getting a nice throw off, but that's kind of what all the offense looked like for most of the first half. Eventually, things would pick up. Whitehaven's defense really did hold Fairley in check for most of the first half, including this interception that they got right here. This is Dino Wade with the pick. And then eventually, Whitehaven's offense started to click, and it took a while, but they did eventually click. There was a few completed passes early on, but it was a running game, I think, that really took hold. This is a quarterback scramble, obviously, right here. They got him close to the end zone. Chris Talley eventually gets him into the end zone. There he is right there. 21. He actually had more than 200 yards on the day, 4 touchdowns on the night. Whitehaven ended up 12-0 at the half, and they are going to win 25-6. Again, not a lot of early offense in that game, Rich. And when I was out there, I kept expecting Whitehaven to, boom, because it had such a strong start to the season already.
Yeah.
But it was just something like, I don't know if it was the conditions or what, but nobody could get going. I kept thinking, man, that ball has got to be dusty. You ever played with a dirty football?
From Oklahoma. All the dust that, used to be out there.
I wasn't alive during the Dust Bowl days.
I was just about to say that,
brother. I am not that old, big dog. The Dust Bowl was a long time ago, bro. I'm just saying in general, have you ever played football with a dirty, dusty football?
Yeah.
It's super hard to really get a good grip.
Can't really get your grip on it.
Yeah, and I think that might have played into some of the struggles of just, the conditions of it. Plus, it was dusty. It's hard to read and see, get stuff in your eyes. And, yeah, it was a tough game. Eventually, Whitehaven pulled it out, but it was definitely not the barn-burning, let's go punch for punch game that I was expecting in the first half.
As far as the rivalry, and it's, like I said, it was the first time those teams were playing since 2018, do you think it delivered as far as the environment, the atmosphere?
Oh, man, it was packed.
What was it like that? Okay.
There were cars everywhere. There were 4 or 5 different people grilling out. There was music playing. I remember that part. I thought the atmosphere was great. The atmosphere of the game and the environment was great. I just think it took the teams a little bit longer to get going. Some of that might be the emotions of the neighborhood rivalry, and sometimes you get a little bit too geeked up to start the game, and you got to settle in and kind of do your job, which is always the word in football, right? Do your job, and I think that might have played a little part in it.
Now, I remember going into that game, I told you about number 21, Christopher Talley, the running back. That was your first chance to get your eyes on him. What do you think about that kid?
Well, when the dust wasn't flowing and I could actually see him, he's fast.
Yeah.
And he has absolutely great instincts when it comes to cutting in traffic. I mean, there's a lot of guys who are fast around the end, right? You get on the corner, you get to the edge, and nobody can catch him. His speed and change of direction, at the line of scrimmage and in between the tackles and guards, to me, that's what kind of stood out. Like, you could see the guy make a cut and change direction. He plays physical. He plays downhill. He's a little bit like an Adrian Peterson type of back, I think, in my mind. He's maybe not as big, bulky-wise, but as far as his downhill running and his ability to cut on a dime, change direction, and keep his speed while he does it, I was really impressed. That kid's good.
Wears 21 for a reason. He's looking like Barry out there. You say Adrian Peterson, I say Barry. Barry Sanders.
Barry's a little
2-1.
To me, though, Barry's a little bit more of a, when Barry would run, you could almost see him stop at the line of scrimmage, read the hole, and then make his decision and move. And Chris has downhill speed. Like, when you give him the ball, just look, downhill speed right there. And then that cut right there is just his ability, just downhill speed. Once he gets it, you have to really get two hands on him fast, because if he gets a step, it's going to be hard to catch him.
Definitely one of the best running backs in our area. But let's move on to another game, Ruben, and that was out at Christian Brothers. What a win for Lausanne head coach Kevin LaCostra, returning to his old stomping grounds at Christian Brothers. That was the first time he was there since 2012. And Ruben, I was there for this one. It was a defensive battle for most of the game. Both teams making drives that looked like it would lead to points, but then a big defensive stop would keep the scoreboard quiet. Things didn't eventually get going until about midway through the second quarter, when their quarterback for Christian Brothers, Cole Frazier, he pulled out the tush push, punching it in from 2 yards out. Tongue twister. Now you're talking about a Christian Brothers team that put up 61 points and 44 points in their first two games, and then when you look at this game, they only put up 7 points. This game ended up being won on special teams. The final score was 8-7. You would think, okay, Lausanne scored and went for 2. No, Lausanne scored, didn't get their extra point or 2 point. It ended up being they scooped up a blocked extra point and ran it back for 2 points. That ended up being the difference in the game. So first thing that I want to kind of talk about this game, that was the first time that I had been in Christian Brothers. Good Lord, dude, that's almost like a college campus.
It's a beautiful place.
Yes. Yeah. The stadium is huge. I mean, for a high school standards, it's huge.
The way they have it laid out is really nice, with the building right there, that building right there beside it, and the field's kind of set off, and then they have those extra fields. It's a really nice facility, and they're doing some renovating, we're changing some of the stuff with the scoreboard. I think they just redid the track.
It is beautiful.
Christian Brothers not playing around over there, and from what I heard, it was packed.
Yes, it was. You could just see purple everywhere. I almost felt like I was at an LSU game, which I know our producer Jared would like that.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
All that purple, or Kansas State, or TCU. Just pick a team that wears purple.
So, what do you think, since you were out there and you got to see it firsthand? I mean, I've seen the highlights, I've read about it, but do you think, because Christian Brothers have been putting up so many points, I mean, so many points. I think everybody was expecting this to be a shootout, and it just wasn't that. Yeah,
because Lausanne, they are a team that puts up points themselves. But I think when you talk about the emotion of this game, it being Kevin LaCostro's first time against his former school, I think they wanted to keep everything disciplined. I think they wanted to keep everything structured and just kind of like have it be a grinded out game. And I got to admit, that first half, it was kind of ugly. You know what I'm saying? I was like, oh my God, would somebody please score? It would be missed opportunities on both sides. But I think sometimes when you talk about two of the prominent private schools in the Memphis area, sometimes that's just what it ends up being. And so, I mean, shout out to Lausanne getting the W, but.
Well, I think you also have to think about the fact that Lausanne had an extra week to prep.
Yeah.
So when you've got that bye week, you've got that whole week. You basically had 2 weeks to prep for Christian Brothers. I promise you, Coach LaCostra was spending plenty of time dissecting the Christian Brothers offense so that his defense could do their job, because you get 2 weeks to prep for a team. Any coach will tell you they'd love to have 2 weeks to prep to slow down a high-powered offense.
And the last time they played, it was against Southwind, where they got their butts whooped in their house, so they had a sour taste in their mouth. So, I mean, I like what I see from both teams going forward. So I think both teams have a bright future. But, I mean, this is what high school football is all about. Everything isn't going to be a knockdown, drag-out like what we had when Whitehaven played Houston.
Well, I always tell people, kind of the way I think about it, I know we're going to go to some scores here in a second, is that when 2 good teams play, somebody got to lose. There ain't no way around it, right? So it doesn't matter. Somebody got to lose every game. So when 2 really good teams play, somebody's got to lose. And I'll tell you, in a game like that, I'd rather see a game that tight than see a blowout and somebody just didn't show up and play well. And all right, speaking of blowout.
I know. I mean, what sticks out about you? For me, a score that sticks out, we just brought up Houston and Southwind. Southwind just proving that they are for real.
They are for real.
49-0. Now, I got to ask you this, Ruben. We talked to you a lot about how good Houston was going into the season. Back-to-back state championship appearances, 1-1, lost 1. If I told you at the beginning of this season that Houston would be 0-3, would you believe me?
Looking at their schedule, probably, maybe.
0-3?
I don't know that I would have said 0-3, but I definitely could have expected a loss or 2. But now, if you'd have said they're going to get blown out, I would have said no.
These games have been bad for them.
That's what I'm saying. I would have never agreed that would have possibly happened. And it makes you wonder kind of what's going on. Like, is there something happening internally where it's just not clicking for those kids the way it needs to click? and only the coaches are going to know that. But I promise you, they are not happy right now with the tradition that school and that program has. That they'll have to find a way to turn it around quickly.
I think maybe an underlying aspect is, Houston, that team that made those championship appearances, that was 25 seniors that graduated last year. That's a lot of kids you got to replace. So a lot of these guys who are playing now, yeah, they've been on the team, but they haven't had that starting playing experience. So it's almost like you're really starting from scratch.
Yeah, but in a school the size of Houston, they're getting lots of reps in other ways, too. So,
yeah.
I mean, you would expect this. Football is always next man up. So you would expect those guys to be ready. Some of the other scores, Kirby.
Yeah, especially MUS beating Bartlett, in week one. But, I mean, bringing up Bartlett, Melrose going into their house and beating them 20-13. So we're going to bring that score right back up in just a moment. Another thing that sticks out to me is Central. I mean, put some respect on them, 38-37.
All right, let's stay on this for just a second. We'll talk about a couple of these games. Collierville getting a close win after just having a close loss last week. So
in Mississippi.
Needing the win at this point in time to help set up some of those bigger games later. Melrose and Bartlett.
Yeah, like I said, Melrose going into Bartlett, beating them, but Bartlett also 0-3.
Yeah, as well, and they're struggling.
Who would have predicted that?
They're struggling in some ways. You've also got, look at the Olive Branch score, Olive Branch at Lewisburg.
Yeah, get some luck. See, a fun fact, I didn't even know where Lewisburg was until, one of our producers had told me that she lives out in Lewisburg. I was like, where is that? I had never heard about Lewisburg.
So some surprises, the Bartletts, the Houstons, but you're also seeing not a lot of just undefeated teams right now.
Yeah.
You're seeing people are taking losses across the board, one here, one there, which I think sets up a great back end of the season at that point in time.
Yeah, and then Bolton, another thing I want to point out, Bolton, it was their first game since their player had passed away. And they played earlier this week on Thursday to even take the field because the first two games they forfeited.
Yeah.
So to finally be in the mental space to take the field, I think that's admirable. I think this week, I want to overlook that score of them getting shut out 29-0. The fact that these kids can even just take the field for that. And I just kind of want to do a little plenty aside. When I was a senior in high school, we had a player who passed away who died on the field from getting hit. And I always wondered how our team would be able to respond to that and rally. And we end up going off and going undefeated and winning the state championship. But, the other side of the coin is Bolton. What those kids are going through, we can't even put it into really words. So for them to take the field this past Thursday and then decide to continue to go into their season, a tip of the cap for them.
Yep. All right, let's get to it. We talked about some of the scores. Now let's talk about the play of the night, the best play of the night.
Yeah, we didn't get to it on Friday, but let's take a look at what would have been our play of the night if we did. This comes from Briarcrest football, J.D. Donaldson. Come get you some. It was his second touchdown tonight that cut the Saints' deficit to 21-14 against the mighty Innsworth Tigers. Briarcrest went on to lose by that score, but still, kudos to that kid for making that snag, Ruben. Look at him wearing number 7.
Yeah, I'm not, I want to see, all right, okay. I still think our first play of the night is our top play of the night.
Yeah.
All right, so
the game winner.
If you want to send us your play of the night, you can do so by using some of the information you see on the screen. You can do @RubenDiaz TV. That's our Twitter or X, as you call it. And then Rich's is RD2 Sports.
Yep. And then send that text line, 901-321-7520. What's the hashtag, Ruben?
Hashtag ABC24th floor for that. And you give us the name of the player, the game situation, and some of that information so we can definitely shout out the kid when we do the play of the night.
Yes, the more details you give, the better that will gas it up. As Ruben said, that first play of the week or play of the night, I should say, still is our favorite because that was a game-winning touchdown.
Yeah. Right.
So make sure you give that situation, folks.
Let's talk about the games we're watching on this week. We showed you some of the scores from last week. Let's talk about some of the games we're going to keep an eye on this week. You got Germantown at Whitehaven.
Ooh,
that's going to be a good one. Southwind at White Station. I think that's another potentially really good one. Then Collierville's back at home as well. There are some games on here, that I think have a chance to be pretty solid games.
I mean, we talk about Collierville. This is the third Mississippi team they're playing. So I wonder, like, if
hard
that
to get
was
games.
Yeah,
That's what
I was just about to say.
Yeah.
What is up with all these Mississippi teams?
Well, it's hard to get the games when they change the alignment around. Some of these coaches have already told us it was, you could fill 2 or 3 games before, but now having to fill 4, 5, or 6 games is tough. And that's what you're seeing with some of these schools like Collierville. They're having to go out of the area to find games to get people to play them. And so that's what you're seeing.
And I've talked about it on this program. Mace, defending state champs, this is their first home game this week on Thursday. Thursday night football. Don't even get Friday night. You're the defending state champions. Welcome back, Coach Cedric Miller.
We'll have scores from tons of those games coming up this Friday when we do our high school football coverage.